There is so much to unpack here. Before we get into today's video, I just want to let you guys know that this video is for educational purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody everywhere, in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. I hope you all have had a wonderful week. Hope everybody is feeling good. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about the Gene Hackman situation. And if you do not know who Gene Hackman is, which I'm assuming a lot of y'all probably do, or y'all have seen him in movies before, I'm going to tell you all about him. And this is such a mind-bending type of case, and make sure you stay to the end of this video because I really want to know what y'all think. Before we get into it, I did want to let you guys know, if you don't already know, hi, my name is Christina. I do have a second channel, which is Casually Christina. We just do things way more casually over there. If you guys are not over there, if you're interested in content like what I eat in a day, food stuff, workout stuff, vlogging, my life, my property, all of that type of stuff, that is being posted over on my second channel, which is Casually Christina. I also have a Patreon. My Patreon's for 18 and up. And over there, we just talk about more personal stuff. We go live over there once a month. There's a $2 tier for all the true crime stuff that cannot go on to YouTube due to their terms and policies. That goes over on my Patreon under the $2 tier. Just make sure you read the full about section of what each tier offers before you join. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and I'm also on Like to Know It. And Like to Know It is where you can find links to a lot of the things that you guys ask about, that I use, that I love. Anything from skincare products, stuff that I cook with, seasoning stuff that I've been cooking with lately, furniture, skincare, basically anything, jewelry is linked on my Like to Know It. And all of those platforms are linked down in the description box if you would like to come and check me out. So before I tell you about the Gene Hackman situation, I need to let y'all know that everything in this video is alleged. I pull all of my information from very public news sources that is already out there. Go do your own research, form your own opinions. I'm not a professional. I'm just filtering this through my own words. But I'm going to give you guys the background on Gene Hackman. Then we're going to get into his situation with his first wife and then his most recent wife, which, spoiler alert, was 30 years younger than him. And as you can imagine, probably caused a little tension in the family, all the way to what happened last month and the bizarre stuff surrounding it. So Gene Hackman was born on January 30th in 1930 in San Bernardino, California, to his parents, Anna and Eugene. He also has a brother named Richard. Gene's family moved around quite a bit before settling in Danville, Illinois, and Gene's father, Eugene, operated the printing press for the local newspaper. See, Gene's parents ended up getting a divorce when Gene was just 13 years old, and his father left not long after the divorce. So Gene knew from a young age that he wanted to be an actor. He was reportedly 10 years old when he made this decision, but he knew that he needed to grow up a little bit more before he could do that. So as Gene got older, he attended Storm Lake High School, and when he was 16, he lied about his age so he could enlist in the U.S. Marines. Imagine that, especially when you see the way that things are nowadays. Like, he lied about his age so he could go into the military. Yeah, he ended up being stationed in China, and he served 4.5 years as a field radio operator. Gene was discharged in 1951, and this is when he moved to New York City, where he worked several different jobs. After that, he made his way back to Illinois after his mother passed in an accidental fire. He briefly attended the University of Illinois before he decided to move back to California, and this is when Gene started pursuing his acting career. I mean, talk about humble beginnings and being all over the place and knowing that he wanted to be an actor ever since he was very young. They're saying 10, and him going into the military and all this stuff and going back to where his mom was after her passing, and then finally pursuing his acting career. It was 1956 when Gene joined the Pasadena Playhouse, where he ended up making friends with another aspiring actor, Dustin Hoffman. They were seen as outsiders, and they were voted least likely to succeed. Imagine that. Gene actually got the lowest score the Pasadena Playhouse had ever given anybody, and this just motivated Gene even more. He wanted to prove everybody wrong. So Gene took on several off-Broadway plays. And then in 1963, Gene made his Broadway debut. And then not long after that, he was in the successful Any Wednesday play, which opened the door for Gene to start working in actual films. By the 70s, Gene was a breakthrough and he was a successful actor just like he had always dreamed of being. He actually ended up being nominated for an Oscar for his role in I Never Sang for My Father, and he won his first Academy Award for Best Actor for his performance in the crime drama The French Connection. In 1974, Gene appeared in what would become one of his most famous comedic roles as Harold the Blind Man in The Young Frankenstein. Throughout the 1980s, Gene alternated between lead and supporting roles, and almost all of them were very successful. I mean, he was the bad guy in some roles, and he was the good guy in some roles. He had a really unique voice, and he was very successful. In 1991, Gene played in the Western Unforgiven, which was directed by Clint Eastwood. And Gene didn't really want to take on this role, but Clint Eastwood convinced him to. The role ended up getting Gene his second Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and this movie also won Best Picture. Not too bad for the guy that was voted least likely to succeed, right? Gene spent the rest of the 90s and the early 2000s going back and forth between being on Broadway and also acting in movies. Then, in 2004, Gene was 64 years old when he gave a rare interview to Larry King. In the interview, he announced that he had no film projects lined up, so he believed that his acting career was over. And then, in 2008, Gene confirmed that he had officially retired. In 2009, Gene said the straw that broke the camel's back was actually a stress test that he took in New York, and the doctor basically advised him that his heart was not in any kind of shape for him to continue to be put under stress. So that's when he called it quits and said, okay, I'm done. In the meanwhile, Gene did write 3 historical fiction novels and narrated some episodes of documentary series. As for his personal life, in 1956, Gene married a woman named Faye. Together, they went on to have 1 son and 2 daughters, and it is said that Gene was frequently gone from the home because he was on the road filming different movies. Gene and Faye did go on to get a divorce in 1986 after 3 decades together. In December of 1991, Gene married a woman named Betsy after they had been dating for 7 years. Betsy was a classical pianist who was 30 years younger than Gene. So you can only imagine the looks and the talks from family and friends and people around them. I am just assuming here or guessing that people were thinking that Betsy had certain intentions. She's 30 years younger than him. All of that. Betsy was born on December 15th of 1959 in Honolulu, Hawaii, and she was raised as an only child by her mother, who was a businesswoman. Betsy studied social sciences and communications at the University of Southern California from 1981 to 1983. She later went on to get her master's degree in liberal arts at St. John's College in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Betsy and Gene met each other in the 80s while she was still working part-time at a fitness center in LA. Together they bought a property in the mountains in Santa Fe where they worked with architects to convert a 1950s block building into a beautiful home. I mean, it was featured in the Architectural Digest magazine back in 1990. I mean, it was stunning. And then Gene and Betsy were also business partners in a local Asian restaurant. In January of this year, 2025, Gene turned 95 years old. What a blessing to make it to 95. However, he hadn't really been seen out in public since March of 2024, where he seemed to be doing okay. I mean, he was older. Y'all can see this video here. For 94 years old, he's looking good in my opinion. Sadly, in February of this year, 2025, news broke that both Gene and his wife, Betsy, have been found deceased in their home under some pretty, we'll just say, peculiar circumstances. On February 26th, a maintenance worker that was concerned about Gene and Betsy ended up calling the security for help when neither Gene nor Betsy answered their door after he had basically been knocking on it for a while. When the security showed up, they started looking all around. They were looking in the windows to see if they could see anything that looked out of place. But this is when they saw Gene and Betsy's bodies. So they look in, they see Gene and Betsy's bodies, they call 911.
I'm over at their property. There's no address here. So I have to meet the ambulance or the police, whoever, down at the gatehouse. I'll bring them up here.
Okay. How old is the patient?
I have no idea.
You don't know? Okay, that's fine. Is the patient a male or a female?
A female and a male, probably. I don't know, sir. Just send somebody up here real quick.
Okay. Are they awake?
I have no idea.
Are they breathing?
I have no idea. I'm not inside the house. It's closed. It's locked. I can't go in. But I see that she's laying down on a floor from the window.
Okay.
When the officers showed up, they discovered that Gene's body was in a mud room near the kitchen. He was near his cane and he appeared to have fallen. Betsy was found in a bathroom. One of their dogs, Xena, she was also found deceased in a crate near Betsy's body in the bathroom closet. Scattered around on the countertops were like some pills and a prescription bottle. And on the ground near Betsy was a space heater. However, Betsy and Gene's other dogs that were on the property were found alive. One of them was actually guarding Betsy's body when the officer first entered the home. So they go into the home. They're both deceased in two different rooms, as well as a dog being deceased. But then you've got two dogs that are alive. Officers on the scene noted that it appeared that they had been deceased for a while. I mean, one officer even said that it appeared that Betsy's hands and feet were mummified. Here's some body cam footage from an officer that responded that day.
I don't know, something's not right. I would communicate with her pretty much on a weekly basis. 2.5 weeks ago, that stopped.
He's just a normal person, you know, and all of a sudden to see that, both of them, bro. Sorry.
Nobody went in?
Nobody went in.
No, EMTs went in. EMTs were the first ones.
They were
in.
very brief, just
brief, and I told
medics.
them we weren't supposed to go in, and they were like, okay, because I was like, he could be in there, we don't know. I've got a way to get a hold of his kids,
Okay.
and so a friend of theirs, I got a hold of him. He's got a hold of the lady that's in charge of the estate, and she's saying that she just talked to Betsy a couple of days ago, so I don't see how, but she wants you to call her.
Yeah, we will. We're just trying to, because
Yeah,
who
piece
they
of
are,
paper that I can
I
write
don't
this
have
down.
one on me. I just
Okay.
want to keep this limited
Oh yeah,
as much as
definitely.
possible,
Their
because once this
privacy
gets out,
was we know.
you know how this is going to turn with the, you know. So we got to figure out what's going on first. My concern is a carbon monoxide issue
Kelly,
right now.
Kelly, yeah, she knows.
So I want to have them
Joy,
test.
do you want to come up here?
Sure.
Because I'm going to need help with the dogs, and
So-
you can give them this
So
information.
her family's been notified, okay? They know that
Okay, yeah, come
what's
on down.
happened up here. Her
Okay,
family.
all right.
He has a couple of kids,
Okay.
okay, that from previous.
Right.
They didn't have any kids together. And
Okay, well,
we
let's
just
now.
now found a way to get in contact
Right,
with
let's
their
just try
kids.
to limit
Yeah,
any.
oh, yeah,
I
no,
was
no,
telling
no.
everyone, we were telling the EMT guys, look, you guys, please don't tell
Yeah.
anybody. And so anyone that I'm involving is close, because I worked for him for 16 years. Everything
And
was
see,
tight,
I've worked for him
knit.
for 28, and the bottom line was, don't ever mention our name.
Right.
Privacy was.
No, that's understandable. Like I said, we
Yeah.
just want to figure out what's going on,
Oh, sure, no, I understand.
because that's going to
I
be the
understand.
question, what happened, and we need to figure that out.
Obviously, this situation seemed a bit strange, and when the sheriff gave his first press conference, he said this.
What's the latest on the investigation into the death of Eugene Hackman and his wife?
You know, we've struggled to release as much information as we have. You know, the search warrant was executed just before 10 o'clock p.m. last night, and so they've been working diligently through the night and starting again in the morning to completely process the scene.
Can you confirm if they have been deceased for a long period of time? I was told maybe a week or two.
You know, all I can say is they have been deceased for quite a while. You know, that's a determination that's better suited for OMI and the experts, but it sounds like they had been deceased for a while, and I don't want to take a guess in reference to how long that was.
You guys are ruling out foul play, though.
We're not ruling it out. What I did state was there was no obvious sign or indication of a foul play. There was no immediate sign of foul play. Haven't ruled that out yet. This is an investigation, so we're keeping everything on the table. I think the autopsy is going to tell us a lot, and any evidence that we collect, but I haven't ruled any of that out yet.
Can you talk about the carbon monoxide aspect? I know they tested for that.
Yeah, so obviously it's not I wouldn't say odd, but it's not normal to find two people deceased in a residence. That's concerning. And then there was also a dog that was in a kennel that was also found deceased. We don't know the cause of that, obviously, but on our experience and working on cases like this, that is a possibility. Because of that, we called in the fire department, we called in P&M to go through the house, do some testing to figure out if it was even safe for our officers to go in and process the scene and execute the warrant. They stated that it was safe. I don't have the details of exactly what they located or what they didn't locate. It was determined that it was safe. We had been going in and out of the house. I don't know if that affects if there was a concentration of any gas, including carbon monoxide. So, that's yet to be determined.
So they did not suspect foul play, but the circumstances of their passing were definitely suspicious enough to warrant some sort of investigation. Then on March 7th, the medical examiner released her findings, and she determined that Betsy passed first after suffering from hantavirus, which is, I had never heard of this before, y'all, but it is allegedly a flu-like virus that is transmitted through rodent droppings. She said that Jean had passed from a combination of severe heart disease, high blood pressure, and advanced Alzheimer's disease.
The cause of death for Miss Betsy Hackman, aged 65 years, is hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. The manner of death is natural. Autopsy examination and full-body postmortem CT demonstrated no findings of trauma internally or externally, with microscopic findings consistent with hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. Laboratory testing was positive for hantavirus at a clinical lab, with required confirmation testing positive at Scientific Laboratories Division. Testing for COVID-19, influenza, and other common respiratory viruses was negative. Testing for carbon monoxide was negative. There were no other significant natural disease findings. Pills present on scene were thyroid medication, which were being taken as prescribed and is not currently a concern for a contributory cause of death. The cause of death for Mr. Eugene Hackman, aged 95 years, is hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, with Alzheimer's disease as a significant contributory factor. Autopsy examination and a full-body postmortem CT examination demonstrated no acute findings of internal or external trauma and showed severe heart disease, including multiple surgical procedures involving the heart, evidence of prior heart attacks, and severe changes of the kidneys due to chronic high blood pressure. Examination of the brain showed advanced Alzheimer's disease, as well as blood vessel changes in the brain secondary to chronic high blood pressure. Laboratory testing performed at Scientific Laboratories Division was negative for COVID-19, influenza, and other common respiratory viruses. Testing for hantavirus was negative. Testing for carbon monoxide was negative. Additionally, there were no autopsy findings concerning for hantavirus infection.
But there were still so many questions. Mainly, if they did not pass at the exact same time, who passed first? How were they not found sooner? Why didn't Betsy get help? It just doesn't make sense for them to both be passed away in the same house together and the dog. It just was very bizarre, a bizarre answer. So the investigators just started to dig into what Gene and Betsy were doing leading up to their passings. In the months leading up to Gene and Betsy's passings, their neighbors say that they noticed that Gene's health had actually been declining. But Betsy still seemed to be in good health. I mean, she was only 65 years old at this time. The investigators found out that on February 9th, Betsy picked up Xena, the dog that passed away, from the vet's office after having a procedure done. This might explain why Xena was being kept in a crate while the other two dogs were basically loose or free to roam around. Like maybe she was in the crate recovering from this procedure so she didn't get injured. Then, on February 11th, Betsy went to the farmer's market. She also went to the CVS, and she went to a pet food store. Then, around 5:15 p.m., it is reported that she entered her gated community. Now, it was initially believed that Betsy passed away that day on February 11th. However, the investigators later discovered that Betsy had actually called a concierge medical service on the morning of February 12th. They assumed that this meant she was not feeling very well, and she was trying to get some sort of medical attention. But when the investigators talked to the doctor, he said that Betsy actually called in saying that she was feeling very congested, but that she didn't sound sick. So he's talking to her. She doesn't sound sick. Betsy's saying, I'm very congested. The doctor said that Betsy asked if she could use her hyperbaric chamber, which is when you get into this pressurized chamber so you can breathe pure oxygen. The doctor said that he told her, basically, no, you need to come in first. Let me check you out, and then we'll discuss it, which is what I would hope that the doctor would tell her. And then he scheduled Betsy to come in at 1:15 that day, but she never showed up. The doctor said that his office tried to call her after she missed her appointment, but they never ended up getting an answer from her. It is said that this hantavirus causes like pulmonary syndrome that makes people feel sick for roughly 3 to 6 days. Then they transition into the pulmonary syndrome phase where they have like fluid in and around their lungs. At that point, people can actually pass away really quick within 24 to 48 hours if they don't get medical treatment. And that is so wild to know. I never even heard of this, and that the droppings, you can catch an infection from it and that quick, like within a week, be gone. So the investigators and the medical examiners believe that Betsy actually passed away first, and that she passed away sometime after she spoke to the doctor's office on February 12th. They also believe that Gene passed about 1 week later on February 18th. They got this data actually from his pacemaker that showed that there was cardiac activity on February 17th, but then on February 18th, there was a record of abnormal heart rhythm. This was the last record of heart activity. This would mean that Gene was home with his deceased wife for about a week before he passed away. The medical examiner believes that this can be easily explained by his advanced Alzheimer's disease, and it is believed that because of this, he would likely have been unaware that she or Xena had passed away. Vets concluded that Xena passed from starvation and dehydration due to being locked in the crate. Both Gene and Betsy's passings were ruled to be from natural causes, but the investigation is still open for now. Something that I found that was interesting is, according to Betsy's hairdresser, Gene and Betsy had 2 strange interactions with a man just a couple months before their deaths. In this body cam footage, Betsy's hairdresser talks about how Betsy told him that she was being followed on 2 separate occasions in December by an individual that she had never seen before.
Maybe not this last haircut, but color and cut, but the color and cut in December. She mentioned to me that there was a man that had parked outside of their gate and followed them.
Oh, okay.
On 2 separate occasions, I believe is what she told me. One occasion is when they went to White Rock. They went and had lunch there, and the guy followed them parked outside of the gate, followed them from the gate of the residence all the way to White Rock.
Are you familiar with the house? The layout, like the way
Only from
the
what
properties?
the TV.
So there's like a guard shack,
The big gate.
the main gate, and then there's another gate up on top.
Yeah.
Did she specify
And
which
she didn't
gate?
know how. She didn't specify which gate, but she also didn't know how long this person had been parked there.
The main gate.
Main gate or second gate.
Okay.
She didn't really say, but she said, Christopher, I'm surprised that security
Allowed.
didn't.
Okay.
How he got there or got, because she said when we left, she says, I noticed that this car had followed us from the residence to White Rock. She said, we went and had lunch. The guy pulled out a folder of photos of her husband and wanted him to sign them.
Okay.
And I said, we were sitting here, and I said, that's so weird because Santa Fe's not a place of paparazzi and stuff, but made it. I said to her, I said, this is weird. I said, this is not Santa Fe. I said, did you call or say anything? And she said, I told him that, she approached him and said, I told him he needed to have more respect.
Yeah.
And so she says we left, and then I think it was the second occasion the same person followed them towards Pecos.
Now, you may be wondering what is going to happen to Gene's $80 million estate. Well, Gene did have a will that was created back in 1995, and it lists Betsy, his wife, as his sole inheritor to his fortune. Now, Betsy's will states that if her and Gene pass within 90 days of each other, that she would like all of the proceeds of their estate to go to charity. Seems a bit strange given that Gene has children. And when I heard that, I felt like, I don't know. I don't have that type of fortune. If anybody has that type of fortune, I would love to know if that's maybe like a normal thing, that a way you're trying to set it up so somebody doesn't come after you. But it almost seems set up like they knew somebody could come after them someday. I mean, this was set up back in 1995. Again, I'm sure, in my opinion, people had issues about the age gap. They always do, but especially back then, 30 years. Obviously, she loved him. She was still living with him and taking care of him all the way up until he just passed away at 95 and she was 65. But nobody would have been able to tell that back then. People would have thought probably she just works at this gym and now she marries him and he changes his will to only include her in it. I would have to guess there was some family drama going on there. Now, Gene's son has since hired a trust and an estate attorney, which I bet he has. I mean, hello. And this attorney has recently petitioned the court to block the sheriff's office from releasing any kind of pictures or videos or any more body cam footage or any audio conversations, any more details with the autopsy reports and the death investigation reports. He argued that when Gene and Betsy were alive, they valued their privacy and that they believed that releasing this information would cause unnecessary media frenzy and basically traumatize Gene's adult children, which I would think so too. Like, they obviously lived very private lives. However, there's other people that have suspicions about that, but I mean, I don't know. I could see it either way. New Mexico's laws already blocks public access to sensitive images. So the judge ruled that photos and videos showing Gene and Betsy's bodies, along with audio discussing the topic, will not be released to the public. However, the judge did rule that the final autopsy report, the toxicology report, and the depictions of Xena can be released to the public. Gene and Betsy's family vet has come out and said that the surviving dogs, Bear and Nikita, have definitely been affected emotionally by this incident, but they have been since adopted and they are hopefully living happy lives. I am sad about that, y'all. I can't believe that the dogs, I hope they've been adopted by family. It seems like there could have been some family drama there. But I don't know, like the two dogs, their whole lives were uprooted. It seems like some sort of family member would have taken them if they could. You never know people's situations. Sometimes they can't. But I believe the dogs were adopted out separately. And it would have been nice if they, I don't know. So that is the story. I find it so interesting and intriguing. You know, at the end of the day, it seems like the two of them did love each other. They were still together after all this time, and she was taking care of him. And if what the coroners say is true of how it happened, that is so sad. I mean, it's sad regardless. But you think about, well, I mean, him having Alzheimer's, maybe he didn't know what was going on, and maybe that was okay, but it's just still so weird within a week of each other, and she had somebody allegedly following her, and it was this weird virus that probably not a lot of people have heard of. I'm sure some of y'all have. And then his heart just stops. Oh my gosh, it's just, I don't know. What do y'all think? Let me know what y'all think in the comments section down below. Other than that, I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see y'all in the next video. Love you guys. Bye.